So much happened in this episode, I don't really even know where to start. I've got 5 pages of notes. Let's start with a catch up on the Joe Miller trial. So in the last episode we saw Tom approach the defence team and say that he wanted to take the stand. So this week he was in court and he's obviously like desperately trying to help his dad, and he reveals the whole meeting up with Mark thing and kind of makes it sound like Mark admitted to him that he was guilty for Danny's death, even though he actually said that he felt guilty about it. On cross-examination though, he doesn't really cope very well and he admits that that was a lie, that he didn't actually say that to him. So yeah, that whole thing didn't go very far. We also finally saw Mark take the stand, and the prosecution team deal with the whole Tom thing quite early on, and he admits that yes, he was meeting up with them, that he now realises that was a stupid idea, it could have been taken in the wrong way. He also, in a bid to be really open and honest, admits that he was writing a letter to Beth to say that it was over and that he was going to be with Becca. Obviously Beth doesn't react very well to hearing this news and she like runs out the court and is crying. And then there's a nice little scene where she's been comforted by Ellie, and it's kind of, even though obviously it's very sad for her, it's kind of like, oh, it's nice to see them sort of bonding again. That whole thing kind of gets Ellie quite riled up and she goes into proper angry mum mode and ends up shouting at Tom and basically says to him, your dad is a shit, and she orders him to move back home with her, and he kind of like meekly agrees to do it. So yeah, it's kind of like, yes, go Ellie, properly like get him told. I know obviously like he's had quite a traumatic thing happen to him, his best friend died and then he finds out that his dad did it, but yeah, at the same time just kind of like, God, man up Tom. When the defence come to question Mark, there is no surprise really that they've been building up to basically painting this picture of him killing Danny. So what they say happened is that Danny saw Mark with Becca, Mark then strangled Danny and then called Nige to come and help dispose of the body. Mark is quite rattled by the accusations and doesn't react very well in court, like he's kind of quite aggressively sort of denying the claims. Another thing they bring up which doesn't look very good for Mark is the fact that he got in to see Joe when he was in custody. Like if you remember, he kind of like looked through the little like peephole thing at him, and I can't remember what he said, but he said something to him, and the defence side are using this as evidence that the police were interfering with the case because he obviously wasn't supposed to be in there, but he knew the guy at the desk and he let him in, and they try to get the whole case dismissed because they don't think that Joe can have a fair trial based on these kind of errors. Luckily though, the judge doesn't agree and the case is not dismissed, and I think if it had been, it would have been like another really like stretch of the imagination in terms of how like real life this is. So outside of court we see Maggie, the journalist. She facilitates this dinner with Jocelyn and her barrister Ben. If you remember in the last episode, she like said to Jocelyn, have you told him? So then this was her like getting them together so that she could tell him, and the thing she told him was that she is going blind, which is what I said in the previous video. And yeah, when that happened I was kind of like, yes, I was right, that's what I said in my video, and my fiance was like, yeah, that was really obvious, that's what's gonna happen. So yeah, I don't think I can claim much credit for that. So yeah, we know that she's got this eye condition and she's going blind. At the end of the episode as well, we see that she gets a phone call from the care home that her mum's living in, and they tell her that her mum died, so things aren't going very well for her, unfortunately. On the defence side, we see Sharon call the prison and she's trying to get an investigation going to find out how her son was attacked. And also on their side, there's some kind of juicy bit of evidence that apparently they have, which I assume we're going to find out in the next episode. So Abby slept with Ollie, the journalist, who clearly cannot resist brunette visitors to the area, since he also like got it on with that journalist woman from London who came over in the last series. And while she's at his house, she apparently finds something juicy, which she then told Sharon about. So it was something she was looking through the papers on his mum's table, Ellie's sister. So wonder what that is. On the Sandbrook side, we're seeing them gather evidence to move the investigation forward. So Ellie goes and gets business records from the Gillespies, and Alec gets some like files on the supposed stalker in Sandbrook from his ex Tess. And while Ellie's at the Gillespies, Alec comes around as well, and they notice that in the garden there's a gate built into the fence. And Ellie kind of makes a comment about how you often see that when the neighbours have children, so you know the gate's there so the kids can go between the gardens. But obviously Claire and Lee didn't have any children, so why is there this gate there? And apparently Lee built the gate as well, which is the important thing. So it's not like it's just left over from like previous neighbours. It was specifically put in by Lee. So that's kind of a little bit dodgy sounding. Alex decides that he wants to try and force Claire to show her hand, you know, to try and get like the truth out of her. So he basically calls her up and says, look, there's no need for you to be staying in that house anymore because you're not needing protected from Lee, so you're gonna have to move out. And she completely flips, like literally starts like smashing the place up, you know, doesn't react well at all. She then goes off and tells Lee, and then have like another one of those really awkward sex scenes. It's really uncomfortable to watch, and it's kind of like there's just obviously this really weird relationship between the two. She seems to be turned on by the whole kind of violent streak between the two of them. Like, you know, he pushes her up against the wall by her neck, and it's just very weird. There's something strange about their whole dynamic. And also, given how we saw Claire flip out earlier in the episode, there's just something about her that is just not right, you know, like that's not a normal reaction to something. Every episode she's just looking more and more like, I don't know if guilty is the right word, but just not, there's just something not quite right there. She tries to appeal to Ellie, and obviously to try and get her to try and change Alex's mind about her moving out. She gets around to do her hair. While she's doing her hair, Ellie's asking her about like Kate and Ricky next door and stuff, and she asks if Claire thinks that Lee and Kate ever had a thing, and Claire says no. But then, as has happened 10 times so far in this series, you then see her like on a wee flashback watching like Kate and Lee outside sort of flirting, and you also see Lisa, the missing girl, say to Claire that she hates Kate. So again, not telling the truth, and there's hints there that there's something else going on. Also, while she's getting her hair done, she's looking through Claire's portfolio, and she finds a picture of Claire wearing the pendant that belonged to Pippa. And you can kind of tell that Claire notices that Ellie has noticed this, because she sort of like takes the book off her and is like, oh, let's go and do something else. And you later see her burning that picture as well. And then you later find out that it was Claire who broke into Tessa's car and stole the evidence being that pendant. What else happened? Alec had his pacemaker operation. It's kind of like a really predictable moment where just as we're about to go to an ad break, his machines start flatlining. Then, spoiler alert, you come back after the ads and obviously he's not dead. Things seem to be getting a bit better in his life as well. He's on better terms with Tess, his ex-wife, and his daughter as well. So it looks like things are, you know, starting to look up for him. Similarly with Ellie, she's kind of getting closer to having her old life back. You see her and Tom move back into the house, and they're like redecorating, and it's kind of very positive image for the two of them. You see that Lee and Claire are trying to get their life back, so they're off viewing houses together. But when you see them visit one with a family next door, which has a very close resemblance to obviously the situation they were in before with the Gillespies next door, it kind of just, you can see that they're both a bit disturbed by this. You know, you can see that they're never going to be able to get away from the past, no matter how hard they try to move forward. There's always going to be this reminder of what had happened. Whether or not that is just the whole like being caught up in this situation, or if it's, you know, that they had a lot more involvement in it and it's just a reminder of what they did. Okay, so that is episode 6 on the whole courtroom drama side of the series. We're kind of moving closer towards the verdict. I mean, I'm still sure he's going to be found guilty, but there's obviously this juicy piece of evidence that the defence team that have, you know, could change things. I don't know what it is yet. I assume we're going to find that out in the next episode. On the Sandbrook side, Lee and Claire are just kind of looking more and more guilty as each episode goes along. Particularly Claire, really. So we now know that she was the one that stole the evidence, but why did she steal it? And did we not hear as well earlier on in the series that the pendant was found in Lee's car? So does that mean that she planted it in Lee's car? Was it her that like set him up to be the murderer? Or was it accidentally left in the car because she was wearing it and it's fallen off? Those are kind of the main questions I have at the moment. I'm still really enjoying the series. It's very different to what I thought it was going to be. Obviously it's gone from being like this sort of murder mystery whodunit type thing, which felt very fresh for a UK based TV show, I think. to now being sort of half like bog standard courtroom drama, with the other half being like sort of like a murder investigation as well. And I think the Sandbrook side is more interesting than the Joe Miller trial side of things. No, I am enjoying it, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the last 2 episodes. We've obviously got a lot of things to try and tie up, and yeah, like I said in the last episode, I think we're going to have quite a few like really action-packed episodes, and I feel like that one had a lot happening. Like, I have so many notes written down that I just had to try and go through and like come up with a structure for this video. Yeah, that is my thoughts on episode 6. Hope you enjoyed my recap. Let me know in the comments if you've got any other thoughts on what you think's going on. Next week's video will probably be up at the weekend as well, because I don't think I'm going to have any time during the week to film it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye! You kind of see that Ellie's becoming a bit more like her old self, and that is most obvious in how she's dealing with the Sandbrook case. She is properly taking it on and wants to be the person that solves it. You see her build like a Carrie Matheson from Homeland style evidence wall in Alec's house.